And of course all these things are the landing gear. Should it go down? Should it go up? Should we be rotating the helicopter blades faster or slower? Just generally a lot of stuff having to do with how to properly use the heli digger. I'll be going over this in more detail when I make the tutorials for this, but for now this developer's commentary should probably give you a brief view. And of course the information for filling the cargo. Notice it goes for stuff, and then if it finds something that isn't empty, then it says everything inside, drop this. Call the new cargo message. This function here will eventually call the master function and tell it you have cargo now and where the position is, because it'll take the position of the player's ship and then the new cargo message saying which thing you got, and then create text inside the scene that slowly floats upwards from wherever your ship is. Error messages, same way. Says, okay, error message 0, that means I don't have any room in the cargo. So when I send that to the master, it basically says full cargo bay, text floats up, disappears. The world generator. This was where I started everything. Basically giving % chances for each type of brick. Gold, silver, iron, dirt, and of course empty air. I've been thinking about the empty air recently, and I'll probably end up removing it by next developer's commentary. I'll basically have it a solid rock everywhere, and then when everything's done generating, create caverns inside for monsters and things to lurk in. I also plan on having rare treasures that occasionally spawn inside those caverns. You can get them, but they're dangerous because they're always protected by something or other. Or randomly not protected at all, but hey, just a little bit more risky than if you were just mining around the areas. This was me to test the expand world function. Essentially says every time I click with the left mouse button, I increase the world by 1 row. I wanted to do this to make sure that it wouldn't slow down that much. As long as the rows don't get up to around 20,000 bricks in total, you're fine. So as long as the miner keeps mining dutifully and doesn't leave too many open spots, the world will never really slow down that much whenever it has to create a new row. In order to get around most of the slowdowns though, I'm probably going to be putting in a routine for making it so that each row of bricks is combined into a single mesh. That way, when you can view 15 rows on screen instead of being 298 draw calls or something, it would be closer to 30. It would be ordinarily 15, of course, but you have a directional light giving a little bit more perspective on the scene, so that doubles the number of draw calls. Polygon count, even when everything's on screen, is pretty low because they're all just simple cubes. So that's not a big deal. I could combine a lot of meshes and it wouldn't slow down much at all. The main thing though, you have to keep in mind that whenever you destroy a piece of a combined mesh, the combined mesh will still look exactly the same. So you have to update the combined mesh every time a brick is destroyed. That'll have to be included in the function. And of course expand world, the exact same as create world, only it stops at 1 row and makes sure that its rows at the bottom. It also has to put more spots inside the arrays so that it can hold the new objects. And of course it says do it in 1 frame unless you're at a 2000 in width frame, and continue on. This probably won't be useful too much except for initial world generation, but if I decide to make it really wide, it could come into use again. And of course destroy world, which just goes through everything and says, okay, you're all destroyed. If you were doing a complete new game and you wanted to generate a completely new world, this function's a necessity. If you are loading, however, you could just do this. The thing is, I'm planning to add another function soon to speed up the loading. It essentially says, if I'm currently playing and I load, then as I go through, check to see if the position at this current spot actually already has a brick of the same type. If it does, then don't do anything, just move on to the next piece. That way it'll speed up the loading a lot if you're loading your own game as opposed to someone else's. If it differs a lot, it'll be roughly the same, but otherwise it'll be a quick speed up. And that's what I have for scripts so far in the game that I'm making. There'll be a lot more added in the future. The graphics are looking okay. A few more things added. I can consult with an artist that I know, make sure that the art is updated a bit. These bricks work, but I would like them to be a little prettier and of course tiled properly. as you can see, like on these ones, on the edges, it's kind of obvious they're not tiling properly, especially that silver down there. The dirt, I made sure tiled really well. However, everything else will need to be consulted. And eventually I want to get curved corners on these. Not completely sure how at this point, but I'll see if I can finish it before game creation. Thanks for sticking around and watching Developer's Commentary. Next week should bring a lot more interesting additions, including enemies, guns, maybe an AI opponent, add a little art to the background, etc. Be sure to stay tuned for the progress of Underminer, and good luck with your entry if you're competing.